down here?
There, yeah. Maybe. I don't know if we're gonna do it today. You're lying.
Huh?
You're lying. I'm lying.
Is that a problem?
No, it's not. What happened to the kirtan?
No, I'm asking if you
Okay, well, I guess we're going inside.
Now.
सामने आई तो सामने आई
Hare Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namah.
बापू इधर आइए
माता जी अभी मंदिर में फोटो नहीं निकालते हैं रात हो जाता है
पापा
तो मना किया जो मंदिर के सामने भगवान के सामने नहीं आएगा
Yadavaya Madhavaya Krishnaya Namah. Gopal Govinda
Sattva-Srupam Śrīvāsa Puri-Matalingo-Shavati Radha-Guna-Vira-Moradika Madhavasa Prabhu-Yasya Kripaya Śrī-Guru-Tam Tosmi Hey Guru Jnana-Vinodo Svanada-Purana-Nikasidu Vrindavana-Sina-Avatara Prasida Radha Pranaya Prachara Hey Pranayikasindo Prasadam Mai Mandamude Kshaparade Bahupapagade Tatpada Padme Stupantishta Krishne Naivo Payantya Patichim Kavayastavesha Brahmayushapi Kridam Ridamuda Smaranta Istanuvratam Acharya Usha Sakatim Vyanakti Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Śrīvāsa Thakur, among other pure devotees of the Lord, like Haridas Thakur and Advaita Acharya, were expectant of the Lord's appearance in the world and prayed that the devotees who had gathered together here in Navadvip and Māyāpur could have their leader, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, come and inaugurate the Sankirtan movement, as they were alone amongst themselves who are pure devotees. The time before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, Srila Vrindavan Thakur describes how the general population had become degraded, spending thousands and thousands of dollars on worshipping demigods, most of their fortune on weddings, grandiose displays, and had lost the thread of the purpose of the human form of life. Sages at Naimisaranya said, Savai pum samparo dharmo yato bhakti radhoksaje ahaitu kiya pratiyata yayatma suprasidati. For everybody, every human being has a supreme occupation, and that is to tune themselves to the pure, loving service of the Lord. And without that, there can be no happiness or peace in society. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhuktaram Yagyatapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Suridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Richati. Unless you get aligned properly and you understand that the purpose of human life is not to try to get cozy. We saw on our way from Shantipur back to Māyāpur an advertisement for a place called the Cozy Kutir. If you think that the material world is a cozy kutir, or that as the advertisement for Indian liquor called Bagpiper used to say that if you drink this, it'll get you cozy. But it won't. It'll get you stupid. And it'll catch you off guard, because everyone at the time of death is off guard and they say, oh, what happened? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not appeared yet, and the pure devotees were congregating and hearing and chanting. What can one do when one is surrounded by idiocy in the world, or in one's dormitory, or in one's business at work? What can you do when idiots abound and people are absorbed in everything that's bad for them, with an arrogant mood, thinking that we know better than the great sages of Naimisharanya? One can only close ranks with the pure devotees among us. If you can only find one, fine. If you can't, then find a Srimad Bhagavatam and a nice place to sit down and read it, and you can have association on every page with the pure devotees of the world. But don't lose heart. Śrīvāsa Thakur and the other pure devotees would congregate here and go on with their process of hearing and chanting, as is the age-old system given by Prahlad Maharaj. Shrinvatam, as he said, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Bandhanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanivedam. This is the eternal process of devotional service that one can perform anywhere. If you've decided that that's what you're going to do, nobody can stop you. Even if they throw you in jail and throw away the key, you can still go on hearing and chanting. In fact, devotees have found throughout the history of ISKCON, when they were thrown in jail, it was a much better bhajan. So this was the plight of the pure devotees here, praying. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, it wasn't apparent that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because by his Yogamaya potency, he covered his true glory. He was glorious nonetheless, because even as a young child, he performed pastimes that enamored the villagers. Everyone would want to come and look at him. He was so beautiful. In fact, at the beginning of Kartik last year, somebody just out of the crowd handed me a little picture of Krishna as a baby trying to lick his toe. And I couldn't get rid of it. I kept it everywhere I went. I just kept looking at it. And that's when Krishna appears as a baby. Everyone just wants to look at him and come and see him. I mean, babies are cute. Then they grow up and get a little cranky. But when Krishna's a baby, when Nimai was a baby, he's golden. And he, as I described earlier, he was perfect. You just want to look at him. People just want to hold him. And he would induce the devotees to chant, even as a baby. He'd cry, and then they figured out when they say, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, and then he'd go, okay. And so he was training everybody. But as he got older, his arrogance grew as a scholar. He was so smart that he just barely listened to one class and then he'd know everything. And then he'd go around challenging everybody. And he would, on the Ganges, there were these tolls, little schools set up with teachers who had their own reputations, and people would go there to learn grammar and Sanskrit and philosophy. And he would go up and down the river with his friends. He had a little gang. He had a posse. And he'd go up to these other groups, and even though he was younger than them, he would challenge them. Or he wouldn't challenge them, and people say, you come around here like you're some big person. You think you're so smart. And you think, well, you challenge me then. And what would happen with the most senior of the scholars amongst the adolescents? They would challenge him. And then he'd defeat their philosophy. And they'd all clap and say, very good, very good. And he said, no, not very good. That was wrong. And then he would turn it the other way. And then he would turn it twice, 3 times, back and forth until everyone was bewildered, and then he'd strut off with his group to the next toll to defeat others. Meanwhile, even the pure devotees, whom are most dear to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he did not reveal his true form and purpose in coming. In fact, some of the devotees like Mukunda, he was a great scholar, but he was simple. When he'd see Nimai Pandit coming down the street in Navadvip, if you've ever done this before, you see somebody you don't want to talk to, you cross the road before you get close to him. Some of the pure devotees, they did that. Mukunda was one of them. When he saw Nimai Pandit coming, oh no, here he comes again. And he would cross the street, but one day he was caught unaware, and Nimai caught him on the street corner. And he asked him, what is the true meaning of liberation? And Mukunda gave his explanation according to Shastra, and Nimai said, no, you don't understand anything. And he thrashed him intellectually and then walked off. And Mukunda was left thinking, too bad he couldn't be a devotee. And all the Vaishnavas started saying that if he could just become a devotee, we could defeat all these atheists. And we have such a powerful movement. And then the Lord went to Gaya after his father died to perform Shraddha ceremony, and there he met his eternal spiritual master, Srila Ishvarapuri. He took initiation. He came back to Navadvip, and the word spread quickly. Something's different with Nimai. He's become a devotee, and everyone was aghast. He's become a devotee. And he then became obsequious towards the devotees, and he would do menial chores for them. Please let me carry something for you. Please let me serve you in some ways. They thought, what's come over Nimai? In fact, then he started searching for Krishna and calling out, where's Krishna, where's Krishna? And Gadadhar told him, he's there within your heart. And the Lord started tearing at his chest, that I'll find him there within my heart. And he stopped him so lovingly and so convincingly that Shachi said, you stay with him. Told Gadadhar, you always stay with him and protect him. You know how to deal with him. Because others thought he had become mad. In Ayurveda, there's an idea the airs in the body become unbalanced. So they said, as it's translated in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, he had a wind disorder. And people told him, give him Shiva ghee. And then some people said, tie him up. Bind his legs so he can't do his madness. But Gadadhar was able to appease him. And then one day, he came to the house of Śrīvāsa, who was his great pure devotee. Śrīvāsa was inside worshipping his Ishtadev, Nrsingadev. And Nimai Pandit began banging on his door. I was like, who is that? Suddenly somebody's banging at your door hard. You're stunned. You're in the middle of your puja. Who is it? And Nimai began calling out to him, I am he, I am he, I am the one that you've been praying for. I am the one that you've been worshipping all this time and you didn't see me. Let me in. And he came in and he sat down on the altar of Lord Vishnu and began demanding, as a emperor would demand, bring me bhoga, bring me worship, start the worship. And the devotees trembling, realizing now the Supreme Personality of Godhead was revealing himself in the house of Śrīvāsa. They came there, and Śrīvāsa, knowing all the different mantras and pujas, began singing the Purusha Sukta. As Vrindavan Thakur says, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, although this is a process of love and devotion, he said they also know all the mantras. They can recite all these things. So Śrīvāsa began singing Purusha Sukta, and the devotees performed the Abhishek for the Supreme Personality of Godhead there, who stayed in that feature for 22 hours, 21 hours. And the devotees came and each one bowed before him and he gave benedictions. Benedictions that touched their hearts. Like Gangadas came and Mahaprabhu said, do you remember the time when you and your family had been coming home from an event and then you realized that you were isolated from everybody else and there were dacoits coming to rob and kill you and maybe violate your daughter. And you were there on the Ganges waiting for a boat and you couldn't get out and you were panicking, and just that time you were thinking in your mind, maybe better we all drown together before we become attacked by these low-class people and become polluted by that. And just before you jumped in the water, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, a boat came to you. And you jumped into that boat in a panic and said, can you please take us to the other side to safety? He said, I was that boatman. I came to take you to the other side, and I've also come to take you to the other side of birth and death in this material world. And when Gangadas heard this, what nobody else could have known, in ecstasy, crying, he fell on the floor, prayed for the Lord's benedictions. One after another, all the devotees came to see him in that form. Śrīvāsa became a place of kirtan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started the Sankirtan movement in somebody's garage, because Śrīvāsa is not a big palace. This is simple dwellings out here. And Angam actually just means a garage. So where's the program happening? In Śrīvāsa's garage. And only certain people can come. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered that the devotees, they have kirtan all night. Now what does that mean? They're up all night chanting and dancing. But the next day, they weren't tired. It's not that they slept the rest of the day and then they wait till the next evening but by Lord Chaitanya's potency, not only did they chant all night, but the rest, when daylight came, they went on with their services for a whole year. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can give us, well, of course, I'm not recommending you don't sleep. I've seen it before. It doesn't work out. It's special circumstances. So, after a year, Mahaprabhu told everyone, after being so careful who he let in to the kirtan, he said, now go out into the streets and perform this Nagar Kirtan. So everyone can hear the holy name. Because Yarabaso Pyudyan Kabalita Bhava Donta Vibodvo Drisham Tatvandanam Api Dishati Bhakti Pranayanim. As Rupa Goswami says, if even a passerby hears Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. In fact, I do this a lot, and I thought the other day when we were having Nagar Kirtan, someone started going like this. You can't help it. You're just like, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And Rupa Goswami says, just by hearing that sound, the Hare Krishna, that there's an awakening in the heart of a sense of bhakti. It awakens like this. Prabhupada says, oh, this seems like a good idea. Even if they don't know what it is. He says, Drisham Tatvandanam, even if they're completely ignorant, it still awakens in them this sense that this is nice, this is good, even if they don't know what it is. And that's the beginning of their spiritual life. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted that the devotees go everywhere. In fact, his mission statement for his movement, do you know what it is? Every town and village. That's a big vision for everywhere. And what's the first thing that happens when you start a Hare Krishna festival in a new place? Somebody calls the cops. We had a kirtan program in Japan a few years ago, and it was in an upscale neighborhood. Very upscale. Some people were driving Rolls Royces there. It was a mercantile community where they deal in jewels. Apparently that's lucrative. And we were in this really fancy house, and we started doing kirtan, and all the people there got all excited, and they were chanting more and more and more. And then the police came. It's serious business when the Japanese police come. And the owners of the house looked at me like, oh, what did we do? And I said, you just officially became a Hare Krishna. And that's what happened when they went out chanting in the streets. The Hindus called the cops on them. As the Hindus got envious, and they said, what is this new religion, this Nimai? He's crazy anyway. He's starting some new religion. We never heard of this before. No one ever said go out. It'll diminish the power of the holy name. And by chanting it for everybody to hear, then what will be left? It will become a useless sound vibration in the world. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught that the more that you distribute it, the more the potency increases, because there's a storehouse of love of God, and spiritual mathematics says the more you distribute, the more the contents increases. So Śrīvāsa is a small place. You can tell that from the Chaitanya Bhagavat, because the envious neighbors, they were warning that, or plotting. They said if he doesn't stop this, it's going to attract the Muslim king to come here and shut us all down. He said, we should just take his house and throw it in the Ganga. And you can see that a little grass house, you could have several people pick it up and just toss it in the Ganga. That's what they wanted to do. So the Qazi capitulated to the sentiment of the Hindus and said no more chanting, broke the drums, and you see that here represented, the broken drum. So don't feel bad if you go out to spread Krishna consciousness and people try to obstruct you. Rather, you should think, okay, I'm following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when devotees first started chanting on the streets of New York and Sydney, Australia, there's a way in which everybody wanted to get rid of him. Even in Bombay, Prabhupada was so angry when he was trying to get the land for Juhu, and some of the locals said, they chant so much it'll be an annoyance. And Prabhupada was angry for weeks, saying, how dare they? These people who know the culture, who know Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita, call the chanting of the holy name an annoyance. Every other sound in the material world is an annoyance, except for the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's clarion call to the world, taking the Harinam out into the street, was a way of waking everybody up and saying, no matter how pious you think you are, you're just in a pit in this material world. Come out. And the Sankirtan movement started here at ground zero, Śrīvāsa. There's so much spiritual power in this place because of the event that took place here, which is an eternal event, which is still going on because it's a Nitya Leela of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That if you fall on the ground here in a dandavat, put your heart to the floor, you can feel that pulsation of that first Harinam Sankirtan, or of the nocturnal kirtan that went on here. And you can pray, please let that vibration go into my heart and stay there and inspire me to take the holy name to every town and village, both through Nagar Kirtan and through literary Kirtan. As Prabhupada said, that there's a Brihat Madanga. You can chant in the Nagar Kirtan, you can hear for a few blocks, and nowadays a lot longer because everyone's watching it on YouTube also. He said, but when you write down the Kirtan, you put it in a book, and you send it out like a message in the bottle to the world, then it can go everywhere. In fact, he noted that some devotees had given books to the son and daughter of one of the American presidents, and they carried it right into the White House. He said, we would not have been able to take the Nagar Kirtan inside the White House, at least not at this point in history. But the books went in. So all this preparation for spreading the holy name of the Lord started here at Śrīvāsa. The intentionality of it that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu created by keeping all the pure devotees together in this kirtan and then letting it out as a wave to the world. And now we're being washed away by the wave, right? We can't help ourselves. We just want to be in the kirtan. We want to take it out to as many places as possible. And that's the wave that started here of Śrīvāsa. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Śrīvāsa Thakur, and Transcendental Śrīvāsa. If you so desire, please instill in our hearts utsahan for performing all the practices of devotional service, especially Harinam Sankirtan and the wide distribution of transcendental literature all over the world. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with prayer in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Krishna.
मंदिर की आदत भवन की कंस्ट्रक्शन के लिए डिवोटी को थोड़ा निवेदन.
Aha. Here also.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
हरे कृष्ण.
Can I use the mic?
Yes, you may.
Hare Krishna. So if everybody can, as Maharaj said, we can pay our obeisances and exit. Now we're going to go to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Samadhi. And there we'll have darshan of his Samadhi, and then we'll go over to the temple where we'll have darshan of his deities, Shri Shri Gandharvika Giridhari. And there we can also